Welcome everyone to the celebration of life of Betty Williams. I want to thank you so much for your patience and flexibility. One second. I want to thank you so much for your patience and flexibility. We tested this thoroughly yesterday, and unfortunately, I think everyone is at home right now on their computers using Zoom, using Facebook, and the Facebook integration is down. So Facebook says they're working to fix the issue, but in the meantime, we're really glad to have each of you here on Zoom for this really special celebration of Betty Williams' life. So we hope this online format will be a great way to remember Betty and to engage with one another in those memories. Last week, we lost a true soldier for peace. And today, our Peace Jam family around the world is coming together to say goodbye to this one-of-a-kind mentor, friend, trendsetter, and inspiration to all of us. So I want to start out with a question to all of you. How has Betty Williams inspired you? What do you carry with you in your life from Betty? How has she inspired you? Please share your answers in the chat. My colleague Erin will be putting the questions and links that I share in the chat box during this memorial, so please take a look there. And I will be sharing live some of the responses that you all give. So while you answer that question, how Betty has inspired you, let's take a look at Betty's remarkable life.
Betty Williams was born in 1943 in Belfast, Northern Ireland. Like many families, Betty's family was touched by the violent conflict known as the Troubles throughout that region.
I was afraid. When I look back on it now, if I'm telling you the truth, I'd be out doing my shopping. Maybe you'd be standing at the greengrocery end of the store and you'd meet somebody, another woman you knew, and both did your plans, but they'd be always in a whisper. Wasn't that terrible what happened last night? God, did you know him? It was sort of her woman. You know, you'd hear this kind of talk among the women. So I knew that any of the females of the species that I knew were very anti what was going on, but they were terrified to say anything. There wasn't a mother in Northern Ireland that wasn't afraid, because it wasn't, you know, you didn't know whether you'd walk out one day and what you were walking into. So I know why the women were whispering. I was one of them.
In 1976, 3 innocent children were killed in a shooting in Belfast. Williams, a housewife and secretary, witnessed the tragedy and decided the decade of violence had to end.
I mean, I was so angry. I was yelling at the women, you know, I wasn't sort of nice little peace person. I was this raving lunatic on their doorstep. We've got to stop this. And after about 4 houses, I nearly lost my voice, so yelling at everybody. And it just took off like wildfire. Women just, because I had given a voice to what they were feeling. You know, I must have lifted the lid.
Williams co-founded the Peace People with Mairead Corrigan, the aunt of the 3 children killed. They organized a peace march to the children's graves that 10,000 Protestant and Catholic women attended. The Irish Republican Army disrupted the peaceful walk, but 35,000 people marched with Williams and Corrigan the following week to protest violence in their country. These protests grew and spread worldwide, engaging hundreds of thousands of people demanding peace. Betty and Mairead were awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1976 for their efforts. They had started a movement to build bridges between Catholics and Protestants and to end the ethno-nationalistic conflict in Northern Ireland. 30 years later, their efforts bore fruit, and a peace treaty was signed, ending 300 years of conflict and struggle in their homeland. After receiving the Nobel Peace Prize, Betty founded and ran the World Centers of Compassion for Children, whose mission is to provide a strong political voice for children in areas affected by war, hunger, social, economic, or political upheaval.
I don't know how anyone can witness the death of a child and not be affected by it. And that was the catalyst to the work that I'm doing now. My life and my work are one. They're blended together.
The WCCC has housed hundreds of refugees and opened their first City of Compassion in southern Italy in 2018. The city is a safe haven for families who have been exposed to horrors of war, hunger, disease, and abuse. Betty Williams will be remembered for her lifelong and loving dedication to children worldwide.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for sharing your comments, your memories of Betty here in the chat. I want to take time to call out some of the memories that you all are sharing. Betty knew how to bring the best out of everyone she met. Her soul talked to your soul, from Brandy. Todd says, Betty taught me that no matter what, no matter how serious the issues we are fighting for, there is always time for a laugh and a smile. Jill shared, Betty inspired me not to be afraid to break the status quo, and that in order to transform your community or the world. Betty's work to build a home inspired me for refugees in southern Italy from the Middle East and Africa against all odds. She won the battle with the Prime Minister Berlusconi to stop the land from being used for a nuclear waste dump, and now the land is a home for her work. Remembering her beautiful City for Compassion. Sunny says, I'm honored to have had the opportunity to meet and know her. Joni says, it's no accident that she passed on St. Patrick's Day. She was a saint who deeply touched me so many years ago. Thank you for honoring her here. Thank you for joining us. Allison says, I was so privileged to meet her and have her volunteer to help me in the prisons here in Wales. She had a passion for choices in life. Davy, sorry, I recognize you. David, I didn't know how to pronounce your name. David Dives. David Ives. Pardon me. Welcome, David Ives. It's so nice to see you, one of our friends from the Nobel Summits from Quinnipiac University. Claudia shares, Betty was pure inspiration. She touched me with her deep perceptions and her humbleness. Thank you to everyone who shares. Thank you to everyone for being here. Jennifer shared, Betty's love of the youngs inspired me to continue my work to help them develop leadership skills and compassion. So I encourage you to keep sharing your inspirations from Betty and how you carry Betty in your life. Betty has been an essential part of Peace Jam and the Peace Jam Foundation since its inception in 1996. And she has inspired through Peace Jam more than 1.3 million youth from around the world with her stories of resilience and courage. Betty actually hosted our very first Peace Jam Youth Conference in March of 1996 in Denver, Colorado. Since then, she has personally mentored youth at over 60 Peace Jam conferences in the US, Europe, and Africa. She was and forever will be one of our greatest allies and leaders for peace. So I'd like to invite you all to join us in remembering Betty's impact on young people throughout the world through the words, memories, and testimonies of our global community. If you continue in the meantime to share your memories and stories. I'll be reading them out after this video, but I would also like to ask a second question that may resonate with some of you. How will you carry on Betty's legacy? Please type your comments in the chat box, and I'll be reading out some of your answers again after I share this beautiful Peace Jam community tribute to Betty Williams.
If no one has told you yet today that you are loved, I love you. This is how Betty Williams greeted all the young people. She invited them to open their hearts, and in return, she opened hers to them. Today, we are so honored, Peace Jam is so honored to be hosting Betty Williams' celebration of life. And wow, what a life it was. At no time in recent history has Betty's love, courage, and fiery spirit been more needed. So join us with open hearts and open minds as we celebrate Betty Williams' life and pledge to carry on her legacy.
دغدغه اصلی بتی زنان و کودکان بی سرپرست و پناهنده بود و در نظر داشت برای اونها محلی تهیه بکنه که به راحت زندگی کنند و بسیار هم تلاش کرد. بتی معتقد بود وجود تبعیض در جامعه صلح رو در اون جامعه برهم خواهد زد و برای از بین بردن فاصله طبقاتی تلاش میکرد. بتی زنی کوشا، خوشقلب و پاک نهاد بود. جای او خالی است و یادش گرامی.
We sadly mourn the passing of our fellow Nobel sister, Betty Williams. Betty was a fierce woman of integrity. Her love for peace and children is a passion that we share, something that I intend to continue in the work that I do. Rest in peace, Betty. May the heavens receive you with loud, peaceful songs.
Yvonne and I are so happy to be with all of you today, but we're so very sad that we've lost Betty. We love Betty so much. She loved Peace Jam so much, and all of the Peace Jammers. She was with us right from the start. She's the first Nobel Peace Prize winner who said yes to us after the Dalai Lama said yes. And when we met with her, she said, "Oh, do you have any idea what you're in for?" And we said, "Oh, of course we do." And we didn't have any clue the incredible movement that was going to be launched as a result of Betty and her love and her incredible spirit. We've lost a great soul, and we're very sad to say goodbye to Betty Williams, and we're so profoundly grateful to her. She will live on forever. We were honored to be able to make the first film ever about her life, the only film that exists about her incredible life. Betty Williams, contagious courage, and that's what she was all about. She lifted you up and she inspired you. We love her. We'll always love you, Betty.
Betty Williams, I love you. I miss you more than you would ever know, and you wouldn't believe me anyways. You'd say I was full of blarney. But I want to thank you for letting us, letting you be our guinea pig to see how Peace Jam would work, having all the Nobel's reps there, and they're at a university in Denver, and it turned out really well, and you did about 60 Peace Jams over 25 years. And we are greatly appreciative of you. And all that aside, your heart and your soul meant everything to the young people. You were probably one of the most favorite Nobels, and you are missed. God bless you, woman. I love you.
Hello, my name is Monica Willard, and I have the honor of representing Betty Williams on the board of Peace Jam. I also serve as chair of the board right now, and I want to offer all of us a thought about Betty. We will all miss her dearly. She was a friend, a mentor, a world leader, and she touched our hearts deeply. I am so proud to have known her, and I am thrilled that we can watch Contagious Courage, the movie produced by Peace Jam, to see her in action and to remember her from her wonderful events that she did for so many years as a Peace Jam founder. My love to you, Betty, and hugs to all of you.
Hey, it's Brian Kelly, Peace Jam's global ambassador, and Betty Williams meant so much to me. If there was one word to describe her, I would say compassionate. What I learned from Betty is to care for children all around the world because often they can't speak for themselves. I remember the first time she did her children's prayer in Ghana with the Peace Jam kids, and it is a moment I'll carry with me throughout the rest of my life. I'll also carry on her legacy by supporting young people through Peace Jam and our TPG Fellows program so kids can get an education and become the next Betty Williams. Miss you, Betty.
We dedicate ourselves to working with our neighbors, near and far, to building a peaceful world.
So I met Betty in 2017 when she came to Ghana for our annual 2-day Peace Jam conference. And the one word that I will use to describe her, it's her modesty, and she's a legendary. Betty had a lot of impact on me, and one thing that I'll remember her the most is for me to stand for what is right. I will continue to show compassion to humanity, which is one of her legacy that she has left behind.
The first time I got to spend one-on-one time with Betty Williams was at the 2012 Peace Jam Northeast Conference, where I was blessed with plenty of her famous hugs and kisses. She was spunky and tenacious, but she radiated this energy of pure love as if she's known you for years. She could move mountains with just her words and warm any soul with one of those signature hugs. When I heard of her passing, I was crushed. But as time went on, it was more and more obvious that her legacy won't live on in just the memory of her accomplishments. She has planted seeds of inspiration in hearts all over the world. The action of that inspiration will cause a tidal wave of progress in the years to come. The future shines brighter because of her work empowering women and children. We are so lucky to have lived in a world where Betty Williams existed. Love you, Betty.
For me, Betty Williams was and is a warrior. Was a warrior because she came out boldly. She was selfless in fighting for the lives of people in Northern Ireland and to stop the trouble. Is a warrior because even though she is no more, her legacy lives in us, me as a young person. She gave me the courage to see that all it takes to make the world better is us as the individuals and nothing more.
The world lost one of my heroes on March 17th. I had the privilege of hosting Betty Williams at 2 Peace Jam Northeast youth conferences and being with her at several others. She was such an inspiration in so many ways, and I watched her literally transform the lives of young people and adults alike at those conferences. Betty also had a massive impact on me. She was a shining example of how ordinary people can do extraordinary things. It would have been easy for Betty and Mairead to just wallow in despair at all the violence going on around them in Northern Ireland. But that wasn't in Betty's nature. She transformed her frustration and her anger into action. Action that helped bring about the end of the Troubles. And that spirit will live on in so many different ways. Betty was compassionate. She had a huge heart, and she had unlimited time and energy for Peace Jammers. She was also tough as nails and wouldn't take no for an answer. Leave it to you, Betty, to go out in style, on St. Patrick's Day no less. I love you and miss you deeply. I'll never forget your message that arms are for hugging, and I'm only so sorry that I never got to give you a goodbye hug.
So I first met her as a curious young high school student. She told an absolutely heartbreaking story of the plight of the Burmese people in Daw Aung San Suu Kyi. Those moments changed my life forever. Not only did her words inspire me, they ultimately drove me to pursue a career in international human rights with a specialty in Burma. There is no word that can sum up Betty Williams. Her genuine love for humanity was unconditional, and the hope she instilled in countless young people will last forever. She hugged as though you were a dear, lifelong friend. Every time our paths crossed, thereafter, She remembered who I was and instilled more and more hope that young people really can be vehicles for lasting change. And so, as she once said of the Burmese people she spoke of, in her name, my work will go on.
Brave. Anytime I think about Betty Williams, the word brave comes to mind. Her bravery inspired me to make more decisions about my life that would help impact me positively and impact my community positively. And the only way I think to carry on the torch of Betty is to keep pushing and keep fighting for the world to be a better place. That's the best way we can make Betty Williams live forever.
The first time I ever heard Betty Williams speak was a day that I will never forget. I was so moved to tears just from the love and the positivity and the light that came from her. Every time she was in a room, you could feel the vibration. And I was at a dark place in my life when I first met her, and she changed everything for me. She changed the way that I look at the world, and I try to look at everything with a sense of hope and purpose and love, and I owe all that to her.
Betty Williams is an amazing soul I had the opportunity to meet during the 2017 Peace Jam Youth Conference in Ghana. I will forever remember Betty by her famous quote, "Non-violence is the weapon of the strong." It's so sad we lost such an amazing soul, a legend of course. May her soul rest in perfect peace while her works lives on.
My 2 words to describe Betty Williams are empowered herself. Betty Williams proved to me that an ordinary person without government power or positional power, after all, she was working as a receptionist, can make an incredible difference in our world. And her legacy will live on in me as I work and continue to mentor students in the Peace Jam organization for my 18th year.
And even in a peace jam, I always say to God, just give me one. Give me one that will transform. One is a huge number, because that one is going to transform 20 others. Give me one. I hope this weekend there's more than one of you. We owe you a better world, but it's too late now for us. You're the ones that are going to be left with the job of rebuilding. The Chrysler guy, what'd you call him? He said there were people who make things happen, people who watch things happen, and people who wonder what the hell happened. I want to make things happen, and I want to help you to make things happen. Dr. Martin Luther King wrote, it's no longer a question of violence or non-violence. It is now a question of non-violence or non-existence. All of us in the world who believe in peace know we got to work for it, because this is a really cruel world, and every year it's getting crueler.
Good morning, Peace Jammers. Now, I love you. I love you too.
Because fear is contagious. It stops you saying what you really want to say. If anybody tells you that you can't do it, please ask them to move, because they're in your way.
In your city of compassion, will you include people with disabilities?
Oh, absolutely. You see, I don't look at what he has as being a disability. You have a language.
Yep.
You have a voice, and you're using it.
Everywhere, but none can condemn the bloom from my wild Irish rose.
Hello, everyone. Thank you to all of the people who contributed those beautiful videos and memories of our beloved Betty Williams. How many of you here on this call received one of Betty's world famous hugs? I know I can't see you all, but you can raise your virtual hand on Zoom. Wow. I was lucky enough myself to also receive one of those hugs. I see 25 people raising their hand right now. Thank you so much. And thank you for the beautiful comments that you've been sharing in the chat. We have been receiving them, just the panelists, so I know you haven't seen all the love that's been pouring in for Betty. I'll read aloud some of the memories that you all shared. Ellen from Greece says, her work inspires me to continue our work with unaccompanied refugee minors in Greece who have grown to love Peace Jam. Nick Bell says, Betty showed me in the brief opportunity I had to meet her last year that anything is possible and you can make anything worthwhile happen if you want it and believe in it enough. I'm so glad she came to Peace Jam UK last year, and I will forever remember that weekend and carry forward that philosophy for what is the rest of my life. I want to jump in with a message that we also received from our Nobel Peace Prize winner, Kailash Satyarthi from India. Kailash shared his words with us this morning. Betty was an icon of global harmony and intercultural faith. She inspired so many of us with her commitment to tolerance, peace, and young people. Her absence is a great loss for humanity, but her impact is a gift that will live forever. We also received a message, I'll share a message that was from Rigoberta Menchú, another of our beautiful Nobel laureates who has been with us from the beginning, like Betty Williams. Rigoberta shared, our dear sister Betty Williams left us a brilliant and immense legacy of struggle, commitment, love, compassion, service, and neighborly generosity, especially for kids and young people. And that's coupled with her constant struggle for peace, justice, and defense of human rights. Her mission in life will continue to illuminate and guide each of the thousands of young people who she inspired around the world. It will live on in them and in those of us who have had the honor of knowing her and the privilege of having shared so many unique and transcendent moments. It's beautiful. Peace Jam Southeast shared, Betty hosted the first Peace Jam Southeast conference at Florida State University. Our community will never forget the hugs and the wisdom they received from this warm, caring, and courageous soul. Sasha shares, Betty showed us that we can't just sit around talking about peace or hoping it all works out. We have to be militant in fighting for justice, for protecting the vulnerable. And this feels ever more relevant now in the wake of COVID-19. Thank you, Sasha. Darren from Peace Jam Northeast shared, it's no small feat to balance the fire for justice with boundless love and compassion. The ability to hold the violent accountable for their actions while still holding open the door for forgiveness is, to me, what defines the word peace. Betty Williams was one of the greatest examples of this I have ever seen, and I am deeply honored to have met her. Inlib says, I did not have the privilege to meet her in Belgium, but I thank her for all that she dedicated to Peace Jam and to our beautiful world. Donovan shares, but for me, Betty was and is a woman that reminds me that peace is something that moves forward with a sense of inevitability. It is a force that carries us with indomitable patience and knows that its time will come. Every once in a while, that force comes into a person who will carry its banner and manifest it for all to see. Betty was one of those people. She was this avatar who, in her work with the world, helped us to guide so many into commitment of persistent, compassionate action. She was the first laureate I was lucky to work with in my time with Peace Jam, and her words echo through my mind every time I think of you all. Live for your country, don't die for it. Arms are for hugging, not hurting. Two quotes from Betty. These simple messages are what I carry with me every day. It is with her spirit that I devote myself to my community and live for it every day. Now she is everywhere, and now she is everything. Thank you for those beautiful, beautiful sentiments. Wow, we have over 40 more messages coming in. I think now is a good time for me to share that we'll be putting together a virtual gallery of these memories of Betty Williams and of many of the photos and videos that you shared. So while I may not be able to read all now 55 messages from all of you right now live in this space, we will be compiling it all together as part of a living memorial that you can always revisit and share with people who weren't able to be here today on Facebook. So I want to thank each and every one of you for your beautiful words. I see you, and I hope that you all feel this love that we're all caring for this beautiful, amazing individual who touched all of our lives. My personal reflection is that Betty taught me that leading with love is a really powerful choice, and that dedication and grit are important as a leader, but if compassion is the underlying sentiment behind it all, that makes even more powerful and effective. It's something that I carry with me in the way that I work and connect with the Peace Jam community too. Allison says, Betty was so approachable, so down to earth, full of faith in her God and in mankind. I want my heart to be as big as hers so that I may continue to reach out to the marginalized. Felix said, make the world better for children, love, listen, and empower them. Vinod says, I am saddened to learn of the passing of Betty Williams. We must celebrate the life of Betty. Her journey has been amazing. Jennifer says, Betty told me to take care of the caregivers. How timely. Watching the 2020 Northeast Conference video is so moving. Yes, her hugs will stay with us forever. Ines from Guatemala says, it would have been an honor to have Betty in Guatemala to share this beautiful sentiment with the youth of Guatemala. Dimitri says, Betty inspired me in the way that she showed up as a full person in her work, not just a peace woman. The work she did, the way she shared herself with the world, all meant that her humanity was exposed. It meant we saw her when she was tired and angry. We saw her when she was inspired and on fire. I love that she didn't apologize for the parts that weren't comfortable for us to see. Betty was a woman, a mother, a friend, and a leader. She was also a hellraiser and a troublemaker. She could be deeply kind and she could be mean as hell. And often that's exactly what it takes to create change. I'll honor her legacy by being generous with my hugs and by not believing it when the world tells me there's only one kind of personality who can create peace. Thank you, Dimitri, for that beautiful sentiment. Well, with that, I want to share with you Betty's own call to action. As we wrap up this memorial, and as I promised, we'll continue to comb through your beautiful messages and share them in a space outside of here. In 1997, Betty released the Universal Declaration of the Rights for Children. So before we close our time together and talk about how we can carry this work forward, I want to share that call to action that she made to the youth of the world.
This is the Universal Declaration of the Rights of Children, which we will be having governments in the world adopt very soon.
We, the children of the world, accept our absolute right to be heard and to have a political voice at the United Nations and as level of governments worldwide.
We, the children of the world, must live with justice, with peace, and freedom, but above all, with the dignity we deserve.
We, the children of the world, require a Marshall Plan, a Geneva Convention, and a World Children's Court of Human Rights, which meets regularly to listen to the testimonies as to what is actually happening to us. We intend to make our own testimonies.
We, the children of the world, demand the right to be taken to safe shelters in situations of war.
We, the children of the world, consider hunger, disease, forced labor, and all forms of abuse and exploitation perpetrated upon us to be war.
We, the children of the world, have had no political voice. We demand such a voice.
We, the children of the world, will develop our own leadership
and set an example that will show governments how to live in peace and freedom.
We, the children of the world,
serve notice on our abusers and exploiters,
whoever they may be, that from this day hence,
we will begin the process of holding you responsible for our suffering.
In honor of Betty Williams' legacy, let's all come together to sign this petition to make sure that this declaration becomes a reality for children worldwide.
Thank you to our Peace Jam youth around the world for sharing their voices and sharing this beautiful petition. So as we close our memorial and our remembrance, our celebration of Betty Williams' beautiful life today, I'll be sharing with you here in the chat a link to the petition site that Betty Williams started 10 years ago. She wanted to get 50,000 signatures on this petition, and in honor of her legacy, Peace Jam is creating a Billion Acts of Peace campaign to continue to promote her Universal Declaration on the Rights for Children. So I'll share here in the chat the link where people can sign the petition. And to those of you who are part of our community, our mailing list, we'll follow up with details about how to join and share the campaign on Billion Acts. Thank you all so much for joining us here to celebrate the amazing life of Betty Williams. It's been such a joy to share this space with you and to see how many people are so committed to Betty and to her legacy and remembering her in this space. And thank you for all your flexibility with technology as we're all living in this new era of being in our homes and being together. I want to give a huge shout out to our amazing producers, Gabrielle Fulana, who made this amazing video of all of our Peace Jam memories with Betty, Elizabeth Holloway, who put together a beautiful memorial about Betty's life and history, Doug and Karen Dempsey, who made our Awesome Northeast Conference video that you saw clips of, and Ari Kaufman, the producer, the 12-year-old producer of our UN Declaration video that you just saw. So calls to action, what can you do continuing out of this space? Betty Williams' Contagious Courage is an amazing film that shares the life and struggle of Betty for peace and for the rights of children around the world. It's available on Amazon Video and Google Play. That's something you can watch in your homes with your families during this time, or share with your students and your Peace Jam communities. And we're asking you to submit your memories. So the love has poured in from all over the world. And as I mentioned, there are so many amazing photos, videos, and memories that we weren't able to feature them all here. So we'll be creating a virtual gallery on Facebook. And we'd love for you to also share your photos and videos via email. So we'll be following up again to all the people in our community. feel free to reach out to us and share memories that you want to have included in that gallery as we continue to celebrate Betty's life and work moving forward. To end, I want to say, may Betty's memory be a blessing for all of us, and may her legacy and fight for a more peaceful world continue in us all. Most importantly, may it continue in the Peace Jam youth, whose lives, and the youth around the world truly, whose lives were forever changed by meeting and knowing Betty. Huge gratitude and love to everyone on this call. Thank you for being part of this community, of this celebration of life of Betty. And we really look forward to continuing to carry on her legacy together with all of you.